I'm Jay Papasan, and this is The One Thing, your weekly guide to the simple steps that lead to extraordinary results. This week, I get to chat with my very favorite human being on earth, my wife, Wendy. We're going to talk about all things core values, how to identify your core values, how to use them as a compass for making better decisions. And if you listen closely, you'll hear three specific applications: how to use core values in your personal life, how to use core values in your relationships, and how to use core values with your team. I hope you get a lot out of this. If there was one thing I could add to the One Thing book tomorrow, it would be this idea of identifying your core values on the path to finding out your purpose.
What's interesting is that core values never really made it into the One Thing. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, when we started the book, we organized the book around the three principles: purpose, priority, productivity. Mm-hmm. So that's the organizing principle of the book. Mm-hmm. And it was nice, the alliteration, purpose.
All the P's.
Yes. And we had a formula for it.
Because we're Papasans. So
that's right.
We love that.
So we went deep on purpose, and that is the foundation. What I didn't know at the time is how difficult it would be for a lot of people to ask that question, like, why am I here?
Yeah, for sure.
But it is valuable. And as more and more people read the book, we would hear back is like, my one thing is figuring out my purpose. Mm. So one of the first resources we created was a PDF guide to figuring it out. But it's challenging and it feels heavy.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a mission statement.
Yeah.
And people felt embarrassed. Like, well, do I share it? Is it private? Is it public? What do I do with it? And it was only in the course of training and teaching that kind of core values kind of came in the side door. But I was struggling to teach the purpose part. And I'll be honest, I didn't know my own purpose statement.
Yeah.
I think you remember for a long time, I just kind of was working with my big why. I want to be the best husband and father I can be. Mm-hmm. And I knew that when I put those hats on right first, it was a great guide to not having regrets, but it wasn't quite the same thing as having the full on purpose statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very different.
Can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
You've got your purpose statement.
Yeah.
Will you share it?
Sure. Well, I call it a mission statement, I guess, but same thing. And my mission is to empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance.
And that acts for you as a guide, what should my priorities be based on that?
Yeah, it's amazing because, I think so many of us are inundated with opportunities, and you do get to a certain kind of point in your life where you have an abundance of opportunities, and it's almost that wealth of opportunities can become almost destructive because you get so many opportunities. And so having a way to say yes to the things that align with who you are in your core is actually essential. And so I know for me, having that mission statement allows me to say yes to opportunities that come my way. So let me give you an example. So if your mission statement is to empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance, and someone from an organization like KW Next Gen, which empowers the next generation of leaders, comes to you and says, hey, do you want to be the chairman of the board? That's a yes.
Yeah,
for
that's
me.
A pretty strong alignment there.
I got another opportunity to be on another prominent board in Austin. Let's say it's Austin Pets Alive. Mm-hmm. Another amazing organization, very different and doesn't align with my mission. And that's just an easy no for me.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how you're using it to make big decisions on how you invest your time and your resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that you got there, and we got a lot of people there. But the reason we pivoted to core values, because it was just, it got people there faster. And I would think from a benefit standard, the work that you do at your purpose is ultimately where you want to go. But in a small amount of time, I think you get 80% of the benefit from the core values. So I remember I was reading Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. And in the back of the book, you have to get to the end, and I'm good at that part, she did have a core values exercise. Mm-hmm. And she talked very frankly she was talking about her top two, and she wanted her first one to be family. But she realized it had to be courage, and that was how she lived her family value. And I remember sitting back and thinking about that and going, wow, that's really cool. And that's her purpose, I think, is very tied up in those statements. And then I remembered, I can't remember the year, it was probably 2014 or 2015. I heard that a very prominent online business person, and I don't have the permission to say this person's name, but he's a good friend, had sold his business after reading our book. And I ended up navigating a phone call and got on the phone with him. And I said, hey, I heard that you read our book, and the end result is you like sold your business that you'd spent all these years building.
Wow.
And he confirmed it. And he said, I read your book and I realized, like so many others, like I needed to figure out my purpose. And he's like, what are my top 3 priorities in life? And he came up with this idea, like, I want my work to contribute to my family, not take away. I want it to maybe make a lot of money and something else. And his shock was, and he stayed up all night. They were camping. His whole family was in the same room, and he's staring at the ceiling because he realizes the business I've been building and so successful does not make the cut. And his wife got up the next morning and said, what's going on? And he kind of unloaded and he goes, I think I have to sell my business. Like, I know we're on vacation, but big life change.
Wow.
So I remember I put those together.
That's why you need a better mattress when you're camping. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that wasn't on the air mattress. I think it was like in a cabin.
Oh, okay.
So you look up and he does sell his business, and it was like he never had regret. Like it was the right move. He was able then to build a business that aligned with who he wanted to become.
Wow.
And I thought about that. And I love the Greg McCown story about the 3, if they're not a 9 out of 10. And then I looked at the core values exercise and I said, well, what if we did an exercise where we help people identify my 1, 2, 3 top core values? And I'd done the exercise and I was like, it took me like 15 minutes. And I was like, holy cow, this is really good.
Yeah, piece of cake.
Yeah, I can do this.
As opposed to like a purpose statement, which so many people struggle with. And so many people think it has to be with something to do with their family or all of that stuff.
It just is heavier.
Yeah.
And it is important. It's just harder.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was like, wow, I love things that are simple. They may not be always easy, but this is simple. People can do this.
At the very least, you could get down to like 5 or something like that. Yeah.
So I think when you came to our event, that was maybe the first or second time we rolled it out as a grand experiment and asked a lot of people to do it once. And so the goal becomes identify your top 3 core values. And then when you have a big life decision, kind of like when you're trying to choose between these 2 nonprofits, now I have a compass. And the scorecard is, if it's not a 9 out of 10 on all 3, you probably should say no. And I've heard a lot of different people in this space. I think it was Tim Ferriss who said, if it's not a heck yes, and he didn't say it quite so nicely, it's a heck no.
I thought that was Oprah.
Well, maybe he was quoting her and didn't attribute it.
I think Oprah
I heard it from Tim Ferriss.
Well, I think Oprah says to do that in the dressing room. You know what I mean? When you're trying stuff on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Lots of application. There we go. But he said, like, you have all of these things. And I actually think whether you have a lot of success or not, every day, most people have to make a lot of choices.
Absolutely.
And do you have an approach to make better choices that you're less likely to regret?
Yeah.
And so we've been doing this now for like 7 or 8 years.
So walk us through like what exactly that looks like. If I'm at home and I'm saying like, oh, well, I want to do this exercise, how would I do the core values exercise?
So we actually created some free resources around this, and we can put that in the show notes for people who want to find it. We've got resources around that and also our core values deck.
Okay.
So we have a PDF tool as well.
Okay.
So depending if you're in our trainings, we provide the tool. And we also have the tool.
What's on the PDF?
Out.
It's just a lot of...
It's a list of all the core values.
All the core values,
so
okay.
What we tell people to do is, like whether they're doing it on paper or with the deck, go through and look at each word. Just read it aloud in your head, right? Whatever the words are, like abundance, ambition, learning, children, whatever that is. Like you just go through the long list and you're going to start circling the ones or setting aside the cards that kind of speak to you. Like I remember the first time I went through, there were like 10 or 12 words. I was like, I kind of like that. I like creative. I like to create things. I like leadership. I came up with a lot of different words. So I was like, that speaks to me. And then the hard part is you go through it again. Now you keep narrowing it down until you get to just 3. And I can't tell you how many times we've been there.
What
And
if your
people are like, I don't
value-
want to choose.
Well, like, what if your value is abundance? Like, do you get a couple more values then? Yeah.
There's no cheat code here, Wendy.
Just curious.
That's very your personality, though. I love that.
Yeah.
So you look up and you make the choices. And a lot of times I'll say, like, are there words that are connected that kind of mean the same thing?
Okay.
And that was kind of the breakthrough that Brene Brown did. I love, like, she's trying to choose between courage and family. And she realized, if I live that value of courage, that's the thing I most want for my family. And sometimes we can align those dominoes and get more clarity.
Yeah.
So usually, like in person with the decks, I love it because they're beautiful. And you put them in a circle and you put your top 3 and all the other ones that were kind of associated, we tell people, take a picture of it.
Okay.
Keep it on your phone.
Love
so
it.
now your top 3 are there, but you're reminded of the other things that were close. Because what we tell people to do this every year. I know some of our coaches who ask their people to do it as often as twice a year or 3 times a year.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good because your values can change a little bit. I know mine have over the years.
Yeah, mine changed 3 years ago, and we'll go through that when we share.
Yeah.
So we look up, this is now this thing that we teach all the time. It's unlocked for a lot of people, how to make better decisions in their lives. And the goal is to have fewer regrets. That's the whole goal of the thing. So why don't we take a quick break? And on the other side, let's share our core values and let's talk about how we put them to use so that it's not just something we know about ourselves or we post to Facebook or whatever. It's something that we use to actually live better lives. You cool with that?
Sure.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I can remember the first time we did the exercise at the goal setting retreat, and I came up with my core values. I think they were slightly different then.
Yeah.
But we've done it every year since then, and I essentially landed on leadership, adventure, and making a difference. So those are my top 3.
Leadership, adventure, and making a difference are your top 3.
Yeah.
The first time I did it, mine were family, impact, and abundance. And I used to teach that all the time with my co-founder. And one of his was something very related to impact and you're making a difference. And so like one of the first unlocks I got, because I had a business partner and a life partner. And when we don't agree on where we should go, where do we all align? And that was almost always the tiebreaker. Like if I wanted to get on board with what you wanted to do, and it really aligned with making a difference, it aligned with my impact, and vice versa with my business partner. So that was like one of the first unlocks is if you share your values with the people that make decisions with you, you have a chance then to make decisions that align with both people.
Yeah, this is so valuable. I mean, we do this on our real estate team. And so every year at our retreat, it's one of the things we talk about. Everyone shares their core values and how it shows up for them.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful experience because, everybody's values are very different, but yet aligned. And as you grow a business, for those of you that are business owners or aspirational business owners, at some point you're going to create values for your business that also align with your purpose and your core values. And what's great about that is, so my values as our real estate team here in Austin, Texas is be bold, lead others, be authentic, give back, and have fun.
Okay.
And so a lot of my core values are actually baked in there.
Yeah.
And what's great about that is, and I have this happen a lot, is when we get a new team member, they join the team and invariably they always say, you know what, I just love everyone on the team. And I said,
you're using the values as a
because that's one of our, it's actually, we have interview questions around our core values. So when we're doing a group interview, we ask our prospective person questions around each of those values. So one person will say, one of our core values is to be bold. What's the bravest thing you've ever done outside of real estate?
Okay. So if Greg McCown is listening and he heard the origin story, it's like we've come full circle.
Full circle.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of how it showed up in his book, Essentialism, that kind of inspired us to build us as a compass for people's lives. And that's one of the ways that you use it.
And that's how you build culture.
Yeah.
That is how you build culture. And so that's exactly what you're talking about, is like having a business partner, a life partner with similar shared values. But, you know, our values aren't always similar. So there's probably a lot of people out there who have life partners or business partners where the values are different. Like, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, we've got a great example on our team. One of our coaches and trainers, Mark, and his wife, Jenny, and like we trot them out a lot.
That's true.
Because like his number one value is fun. And her number one value, is it like order or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
And they had been fighting. They weren't sure if their marriage was going to last.
Yeah.
They did this exercise and they realized now when he's wrestling and tearing up the living room with the boys, when he comes home, he's expressing his number one core value.
Yeah.
And when she was cleaning up while they're still playing, she was actually showing her love and her number one value. She wasn't trying to shut down the fun.
Yeah.
So they were able to kind of start interpreting each other's actions to a different light. So it is a huge unlock in understanding people. And we share them on our team too. That's one of like, I have in everybody's contacts that's on my team, I try to put their core values.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like, you know, you have the notes section because it's one of those things I don't always remember.
Yeah, it's a great hack. Yeah, of course.
So like I'd stick it in their contacts when I learn about someone. And if I'm wondering like where they are on the topic, I can sometimes look at their core values and make a pretty good educated guess. One of our team members, their number one core value is competence, right? And that's going to show up. Like if someone's not performing, I know who's the most irritated on the team. I hope it's not me that they're irritated at, right? Yeah. But it gives you an unlock on how to understand and connect with people better.
So good.
We mentioned earlier, because I shared mine, but they're not my current core values. So mine changed. I remember I looked up at my year-end review and I was looking at the big decisions that we'd made together. We're doing our goal setting retreat and some of the ones that I thought we did well and ones that I didn't feel as good about. And I just realized that I had been pushing that family was first for a long time because this is a big job. And a lot of times it can stress me out and take me away from the family. But I realized I was making all of my decisions first around impact. So I wasn't being completely honest with myself or the world. And so I was kind of open about it. It's like, I'm going to flip it. It's going to be impact family. It's still important to me, and abundance. Those will be my three, but I'm really leading with impact. And now, like, I don't think I figured it out at the time. Like we were really close to becoming empty nesters. And as our boys were getting older, like it wasn't like if I missed dinner, it's like they were kind of happy to go eat in front of the TV or something. It wasn't the same as it was. So it didn't have the weight of regret. So anyway, I'll just share with those folks out there, when you find them, don't rush out and get a tattoo, right? Live with them for a little while. They may change over time and you can get closer and closer to what they mean for you if you use them as a compass.
Well, I love that. And thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable. I think so many times as parents, we do feel like that has to be, it doesn't mean our family's not important if it's not our core value, but, we are, I was 33 years old before I had my first kid, so I had a whole life before I had my children. And I actually had an aha at the last retreat where I thought one of my values was going to flip. And so I tried it on for a while. So I really was, I don't know, in some ways moving out of
Which ones were going to flip?
I thought, actually I was going to get rid of leadership.
Oh,
to be honest. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
go all in on adventure or something else.
Empty nest. Here pirate. I come. Yeah. Woo. But no, I was going to substitute connection for leadership.
Okay.
And I kind of tried it on and I actually put it on my 411 and I looked at it and it just didn't stick. It was like sort of a fleeting thing. I would say that's probably a top 5 for me, but.
You mentioned it's top 5. So there's a reason it showed up, connection.
Yeah.
You mentioned 411, and this is one of your hacks, and I want to share it. So a 411, for those who aren't familiar with the one thing and how we leave it, it's like a one-page goal sheet. You put your annual goals at the top, and then we have a process called goal setting to the now where you work backwards from your goals. So you have your annual goals, and each month in January, you'll say, what do I have to do in this month to be on track for my goals? And then the first week of January, say, what do I have to do this week? That's your weekly goal to be on track for my monthly goal. And so You've got your annual goals, your monthly goals, and your weekly goals all on one piece of paper.
Yeah.
You added your core values to that. Will you share?
Yeah. Well, this happened the year the goal setting retreat was virtual. So I was at home sitting on the couch, online or listening or whatever I was doing. And I kind of had a big aha. And I thought, wow, because I'd always had my values at the top of the 411. But then I realized if I could align my activities, if I could align sort of my big rocks, my big goals underneath those values, then every time I opened up my 411, it would just make me super happy. Right.
Okay.
And it's kind of goals, right? So I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for, I haven't worked for anyone in 20 years. I'm certifiably unemployable. And I've been really running towards my joy. I've been running towards what makes me happy and being very conscientious about, doing less and less of the things that I don't love and more of the things that make me really happy. And so what I did was I said, I'm going to put adventure, leadership, and making a difference on the top of my goals. And then I'm going to put all of my goals that fall under those core values.
Give us an example of each.
Okay.
Again, and I really want to hear what your goal was for this year for adventure, honestly.
Yeah, that's great. So because on the 411, I've got personal and professional. Right. Yeah. But so for leadership, I lead a lot of things. Right. So I lead.
Obvious. You have to lead your team.
I lead my real estate team. I lead Her Best Life. I'm the chairman of, I'm on 2 boards. I was the chairman of 2 things. I've got this other company. So that's all the leadership stuff. And then adventure, I have everything, all my travel, of course, love to travel. All of sort of my growth stuff, anything that maybe I want to learn. Like for this year, I really wanted to join a bowling league. So for me, that's adventure.
Yeah,
doing something different. Week. Yeah. And then making a difference, which of course would be a lot of my charitable work, but also the other stuff that I do. Like, so I would put we have another podcast called Empire Building Podcast. And that for me is, I make a difference. Yeah, I make a difference there. So our goal setting retreat, for instance, was under there. Yeah. So
that's just an example of how you've tried to keep your core values front and center so that you're not cheating. And so like someone was asking like, why 3? And you've got goals under each. And I usually say like, if you have a dot on a map, I can draw a line in it in any direction. If you have 2 dots, you can always draw a line through it. If you have 3 dots, you really have to work to get one line to go through them. And the point of the 3 values, like I would be curious, I'm not going to put you on the spot now. I bet there are a lot of your big goals that line up with all 3.
For sure. Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah. And so I also put mine at the top. I don't write out all of my goals under them. But I like to connect them and check the ones that I know are going to take a lot of time. Yeah. Is that going to help? Like if I'm writing a book and have to finish it, like it had better line up with a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, a perfect example of that is our, my Her Best Life company, which is helps women in leadership.
Right.
And one of the main things we do is we take retreats all over the world and have adventures while we do it.
Yeah.
So, and then we give back. So
you've done a great job of Life by Design.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'll share like my hack for those. Like the goal here is if you've got a compass, how do you use it and not cheat on it? So yours is to put it on your goal sheet and organize your goal sheet around your values. I don't take it quite that far, but every time I look at my goals, right at the top, I've got impact, family, and abundance. And so I keep it front and center. And a lot of times I'll share this. I created a screensaver. I went on Canva. You can like design your own screensaver. And I just put impact, family, and abundance. And I made it the screensaver. And I did this. I was doing some article about how distracting our phones are. And it said that we look at our phones on average 87 times a day. And you've pointed out realtors probably a lot more.
Yes, for sure.
So I wanted to, every time I looked at my phone, just kind of be confronted, with these are the things you say are important. And you have to ask the question, am I still living them?
Yeah.
So just like if you see the cliche, the Olympic athlete training, they have a picture of a gold medalist on their mirror when they're getting up at 3 a.m. to ride their bike through the snow to the gym. Like, what does the picture of success look like? That's what I would encourage people to do. First, I would love for people that hopefully they're inspired. They realize that if they can get clear about their core values, one, it'll get them closer to their purpose statement.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand those things, you kind of can say no to a lot of stuff, right? Like I was talking about, if it doesn't hit all three dots, it becomes kind of a hard no. So this compass, will one, keep us from making bad decisions, and it helps us make good decisions faster.
Yeah, I love that.
What would you tell people is the number one benefit? Something maybe that I've missed. How do you use them?
I think it can help you run your, sort of give you a compass for your personal life and your professional life, and then really help you live your life by design. Like when I think about it, I've really been blessed to have been given all the gifts to really create this life by design. And some of it is just being able to get into business with good people who can take the things off your plate that you don't really want to do, maybe that don't align with what makes you happy.
That's where I wanted to go. You're using it as an entry gate onto your team.
Yeah.
Right. So you're trying to make sure that the people you're letting into the closest circles of your life more or less match your values.
Yeah, for sure.
I knew there was a reason I wanted to throw it back to you, and you just got me back.
Well, yeah. And what's amazing is then if you kind of work with your values and keep running towards them, you get to look up and have a really big impact, like maybe bigger than you would have otherwise. And I think about, we've raised over $3 million for different charities around Austin. You and I have given away over $1 million. My real estate team has been heavily involved in all of that, running all the events and things like that. And that's a big impact, and I think part of that is you and I have that shared value,
And I
That's
think
huge.
when you connect those activities to your purpose, you know why you should keep doing them. Let's make it a priority, because it is a priority for us. But,
yeah, of course.
folks, thank you for listening to us. Hopefully you got something valuable. Wendy, thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jay.
Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Wendy, where we talked all things core values. But the first step is you got to identify them, which is why our challenge this week to you is to go to our website at theonething.com/free resources. That's the one thing with the number one. Download our core values exercise and take it. In about 30 minutes, you can identify your top 3 core values and start applying them to your personal life, your relationships, and your team. I hope you'll take the challenge and report back. Let us know in the comments and in your reviews if you did it and what it did for you. Now, next week, we have a very special guest. The one, the only Gary Keller, my co-author and partner. We're going to talk about the power of making small changes in your life that lead to huge outcomes. It's about finding your intensity and your consistency. It's always a pleasure to have Gary Keller on the show. He always has a lot to share. I hope you'll join us.